How you doing, guys? Gary here. Today I'm going to show you how to remove the full set of seats in your Nissan Leaf. It doesn't matter whether it's an early 2010, 2011 Nissan Leaf or whether it's a brand new 2024 Nissan Leaf. They're all the same with one exception. You either have or have not got heated seats. I'm in a 2018 model here. It's an N connector and it comes with half leather seats. So I'm looking to upgrade those to the Techna or SVE seats. Both variants actually have the heated seats. So it's important that when you're taking the seats off, that you disconnect a couple of cables so you don't fire any airbags and you don't damage any wiring for the heating elements. So let's get to it. I'll show you what you need, basic tools, and basically how to prepare for this. So the first thing you're going to want to do is open up all of your car doors and the boot. Make sure you give yourself plenty of space to work in and around the vehicle. Secondly, you're going to want to remove all of the junk from inside the boot and then remove the parcel shelf, which is nice and easy. Unhook here and get that out. Set that aside. So now the car is relatively free to work in. Next, you're going to need a basic toolkit. So if you have a small flathead screwdriver, you're going to need these to remove a couple of panels. I'll show you later. And any socket and ratchet set will do the job. You just need a basic kit for this. Let's move on. Now, for the most part, you're not going to get any electric shocks or anything like that. But whenever you're touching any kind of electrics, if you're disconnecting any cables, any wiring in the car, I always recommend disconnect the 12-volt battery first. In the Nissan Leaf, it's typically below the steering wheel, just under the footwell here. You're going to reach under and you're going to pop the bonnet. Once you've released the latch, just reach under the center here and you'll feel a little latch, typically just to left of center. Lift that up and pull the bonnet open. Under here, you'll see your stabilizer or your stand. Pop that out and rest it down into this little hole. Make it secure. From here, you're going to look at your 12-volt battery. Remove this little dust cover here, the positive, and you'll just see this is the bolt you're going to want to loosen to take some of the holes from the clamp. I'm using a size 10 socket here. You don't need to fully remove it. Just loosen this and then you'll be able to pop that off. It's a lot easier with two hands, but there we go. Okay, so in order to remove the front seat, you're going to look at 4 bolts. You have 2 bolts here at the front. You will first of all lift this bar and push the seat all the way back, and you'll see these bolts here. Now you're going to have a T50 or a standard size 16 socket, and you'll be able to remove these bolts. The bolts at the back, just pull the seat all the way forward, right here and right here. Now, I'm just going to remove these rear ones first. What they will give and there you go. I've gone for a spline as I don't have a regular hex piece, so just a spline socket piece. That's nice and loose. You will need a large ratchet to do this. You will not manage with a smaller ratchet and an adapter. You just won't get the leverage that you need. So I've got one out. And two. I'll just set those aside because we'll be reusing those bolts. Now onto the front. As I said earlier, you're going to pull the seat all the way back to reveal the front bolts. And these are very well torqued. Note that there will be wires underneath these seats, so my recommendation would be to, if you bring the front of the seat to its forwardmost position, that'll give you a little bit more room to just lean it back against the rear seat, and that's why we're leaving the rear seats in place. That's now resting in place, so you have easy access to see how much money you've lost down the side of the seat over the time. Not much, I haven't had this car very long. Now, but you have 3 cables that you're going to need to disconnect. You don't need to know what they are, you just need to disconnect them. So this large white one here, at the back here you just have a little clip to press in on. Pull that out. Go. And then tacked underneath you have a smaller white one, and you're doing the same thing. You're just pressing down on the clip and releasing it. It pops out nice and easy. And then finally this yellow one, pressing down on the clip and releasing. And now the seat is free to come out. Okay, so do be careful when you're removing the seat. You don't want to damage any of your interior or indeed your exterior. In fact, I'd recommend closing the rear door if it's open. We do have these cables here, so we don't want to crush them or damage them in any way. So just bring your seat forward, grab it by the bar. Try not to slide the rails. If you slide the rails, you're going to end up with the rails sticking out the back, and that could potentially cause damage, scraping in or outside the car. So as you're lifting it, lift the seat up a little bit so you're not dragging it on the rails, and then just grab it here and very gently move it out. In fact, it could be a good idea to remove this. Okay, now we have the front passenger seat out. I'm going to remove the driver's seat, and then I'm going to show you how to remove the rear seats. On the headrest, you'll see where it sits into the seat here, and there's going to be a little clip. Typically it's only on one side, certainly in the Leaf. So you're going to press the clip and simply pull the bars out, and there we are, headrest off. As before, we move the vertical of the seat, the backrest of the seat, as far forward as possible. Lean it back, let it rest on the rear seat, and then remove the same cables. So I'm going to remove these. Sometimes you might need a screwdriver to just press the tab in, because it can be a little taxing on the fingers. Nice and easy. Okay, so as before, we're going to set it down carefully, Make sure that we're not sliding it on the rail. So if you do use the bar to slide it back and forward as a point to lift from, make sure that you're lifting the seat up forward and not sliding it forward. You're then going to grab it from just above the bar, grab it here, and tilt out, being careful not to damage anything. And now we have the front seats out. Okay, probably time for a Hoover. No, it's not quite time for a nap yet. Hard work as it may be in this confined space, important thing to show you here is it's really, really easy to remove the rear seat, but there is one more cable under here, at least, that we need to be aware of. This being a heated seat, and I've never removed them before, I'm going to be extra careful, but I know there's at least one cable under here that I need to watch out for. So in order to remove it, I find it easier to just bring this forward first. Get this out of the way so I don't lose it. Bring this just a little bit forward, and this one here. All right, so it just gives you a little bit of room to pull this up. So you'll find that it just sits naturally there, just a little forward, and you're going to grab underneath here and just give it a nice pull right here. There we go. Same over the other side. There we go. All right, now the seat belts are kind of stuck in place there. Oh, free food. So we're just going to remove the buckles out of place. There we are. We have our one cable. Just going to press this clip. I'll see if I can zoom in on it for you, but it's the same idea. If you use a screwdriver, it's a lot easier. So you're just going to press in there and pull that out. Job done. Almost. So we'll get that out of the car. And next we're going to tackle the backrests. All right, let's get to it. Okay, so in the interest of speed for the video and for you, the viewer, I did jump ahead. So the first thing you're going to want to do, make sure that your backrest is upright. If you allow your backrest to fall down, in some situations, the belt itself can get stuck. Now look, that's not a big deal. You can always access it from behind. So if you climb into the boot section, you'll need a 14 socket and you'll be able to remove this bolt, which you're going to have to remove anyway, so that's fine. The bolt holds in the seatbelt socket as well as the seatbelt itself. It holds it to the chassis of the vehicle. You're going to want to get your little flathead screwdriver or pry tool and just pry this piece of plastic out. Nice and easy. Set that aside. Inside here you've got two bolts. Now these are size 16. So I have a size 16 here. The one on the top is absolutely fine. It fits around perfectly. But I'm looking at this and it actually looks like these seats have been removed before and not properly tightened here on this top bolt. So with that in mind, this socket set that I have is not ideal. You're going to need a longer socket set. I do have a Halford's socket set, so this is longer. However, it seems to do the job absolutely fine, so I'm in luck. So yes, that will fit there and that will remove those bolts. So you're going to do that on this side and you're going to do that on the opposite side as well. Before you remove these, you're going to want to remove the center one, right? Because otherwise you're going to cause instability, and when you're taking out the last bolt, it's going to be a pain in the butt. So I'd recommend taking out these center bolts here first of all, and then taking out, well, I suppose you can take out the seatbelt one at any stage, and then you can remove the side ones because they're secure without the bolts. They're kind of hinged in on a bar, so you can kind of just remove them after the fact. So I'm going to take these off first, then I'm going to take off the seatbelt one, which is a 14. and then I'm going to remove these with the 17. So size 16 here for the center, size 14 here for the seat belt socket, and size or long 16 to remove these bolts here on the side. All right, let's get started. Just note the orientation on this before you remove it. So as I'm looking at this, the red press is facing away from me. Okay, and again, I'm going to note that. So the back plate is facing forward rather than toward the seat itself. Right, that's held in place there, so maybe that'll just stay with it. Okay, let's get at the center, which are not 14s. This is where I need the 16. And a long one wouldn't do the job here because it'd be very hard to get under it. This is tight. Oh, that's very tight. Also, I don't want to rip my hand on anything, so just being mindful here. Okay. Wow, that's tight. I wasn't as afraid there. It's just this one further out. You've got a couple of bolts sticking up here that are basically, they could rip your knuckles off. So we have the seat belt removed, we have the center support removed, and now it's time to get our little extension on here and remove this side. The funny thing is, this car was purchased from a mechanic. He didn't do a very good job at maintaining some parts of it. These seats were replaced before. I can tell because I've done a little bit of work inside this car, and there have been aspects of it that, excuse the pun, they're shocking. Some of the cabling was sheared and exposed underneath the infotainment system. I had to do some repairs there myself. So just because you're buying a car from a mechanic doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a good car. This was a steal though. Good bargaining skills can get you anywhere. Okay, now when you're loosening these nuts, and they are nuts, not bolts, you want to be careful that you don't lose any of them down the back there. They might be a bit awkward to get at. So when you feel them loose, just reach in and make sure you secure the nut and take it out. Got it. Now guys, here's a strange one for you, all right? You can either find a long 16, or you can place your 16 on top of the nut. Let me show you. A long 16 piece will be fine. These are from two different sets. So if you have a long 16 piece, great, you're not going to run into any issues. However, if you only have a short 16 here, what you can do is just sit it in on top, because as you can see here, those bolts that are essentially part of the vehicle frame, they protrude out quite a bit. And when you try to put your 16 on there, it protrudes a little bit out through where the shaft of the ratchet enters. Now what you can do is just get your little extension piece, put it in there. It won't lock into place, but it'll go in far enough that you will be able to get a turn on it. So we're just pushing that in there. It's not locking, but it's in, and I can get a turn on it. There we are, that's all I need. So I can take the ratchet off and just use the extension. Should be loose enough. I need to remove. Careful not to lose the bolt, which is probably what the mechanic did. And set that aside. Okay, so now that all of our bolts are out, we've got our two in the very far corner, we've got our two center support bolts, we've got our smaller bolt which holds the seat belt and seat belt socket, and the two in the near corner here. And the next thing we're going to do is, I suppose, lean this forward and see if it actually just pops out. There we go. All right, so take it out that side. Over here. Pop it out. It's getting a little bit stuck in the trim, so that's now loose here. I should be able to just bring it toward me, or the boot. All right, well, that's it. This is a much heavier part, so careful with your back, guys. Alright, that's it. All of the seats are out, and now it's just a case of doing the reverse to put in the new set. Let's get started. Now you want to make sure you don't get your seatbelt caught behind this as you're putting it in, so you can just put it over here. Okay, so once you have these loosely in position, best advised, just loosely put on the nut so that the seat doesn't slip back out while you make your adjustments. just leave them in loose, guys. Just don't tighten them up, because if you do tighten them up, you'll make it much harder to get all the other ones in place. So you're both going loose first, then you tighten them up at the end. Remembering, here's our seat belts, and the base or the vertical section is pointing toward the front of the car. Anyway, let's tighten this up. So we have our 14. So that's our 14, we won't need that anymore. Let's grab our extension and our 16. And again, we're just going to place this in loose on top of the nut and without locking it in, so we're not going past the little ball lock. Now, you remember how tight these were? You're going to want to make sure you get them nice and tight too. And then when it's tight, get a nice 8 of a turn. Solid. Nice and solid. Alright. Now we can put these guys back on. Make sure your seatbelt's on, make sure this is opening, closing okay. Good. Okay. Alright, seatbelt is good. Good. Alright. Saying it just seems weird. You remember we had a cable to connect here, so make sure that you reconnect that. That's for the heated seats. Just the one cable. Make sure you hear that click. Alright, then this can be a little bit fiddly, but you're going to want to focus on the single seat buckle first. Just stick that under there a little. Get that buckle. And just pull that through. And then you can go to the other side. Bring these guys through as well. Starting with the outer one. And then pushing the middle one in. Hold those in place here so they don't slip out. Push forward. Push down. Locked. Rear seat's done. They're up. It's now time to put the new front seats in. So I'm just gonna set the camera up over the side. It's essentially the reverse of what we did taking them out.
and you can watch me speed through that and I'll show you the end result. Now once all of your cables are connected inside, you'll be able to reconnect the 12-volt battery. So I'm just going to get that done and show you the results. Okay guys, welcome to the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed the content, that it's been entertaining and or informative at least, that it makes your job of doing similar a little bit easier, whether you're just removing a rear seat or you're replacing a front seat, or indeed you're replacing the whole kit and upgrading as I've done here. I do want to say, you know, disclaimer here, any modifications you carry out, anything that you use as a guide here, you do at your own risk. You could damage yourself, you could damage your vehicle, so please do be extra careful, and note that there are cables and wires that, you know, will need to be disconnected, and I'd recommend disconnecting the 12-volt battery before you disconnect or reconnect any of those wires. Other than that, let me know what you think. If you've done this yourself, if you're planning on doing it, I'd like to know. If you have any questions, please throw them down in the comments. If this video has been informative and has helped you out, let me know. Leave a like, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.